The elegant dining room at Bella Vista overlooked the city skyline as 40 members of the Harper family gathered to celebrate my parents' 30th wedding anniversary. The restaurant's warm lighting and exposed brick walls created an intimate atmosphere, while fresh flowers and white linens adorned every table. This was where my parents had their first date 35 years ago, and Mom had insisted on returning here to mark 3 decades of marriage surrounded by the people who mattered most to them. I sat at table 6. Positioned between Cousin Laura and Aunt Susan, strategically placed where I could participate in conversations without drawing unwanted attention. For the past 11 years, I had mastered the art of fading into the background at Harper family events. While my siblings commanded attention with their accomplishments and achievements, I remained the family enigma who somehow never quite measured up to our established standards of success. Family and friends, my brother Nathan announced from the microphone near the head table, his voice carrying across the dining room with the confidence of someone born to leadership. At 35, Nathan embodied everything the Harper family valued: Harvard Business School graduate, managing partner at the city's most prestigious consulting firm, married to a federal prosecutor, father to 3 children who already showed signs of following the family tradition of academic and professional excellence. Tonight we celebrate not just 30 years of marriage, but 30 years of building something extraordinary together, Nathan continued, gesturing toward our parents at the center table. Dad transformed Harper Industries from a small manufacturing company into a diversified corporation that employs over 5,000 people across 4 states. Mom built her nonprofit organization into the largest children's advocacy group in the region. Together, they've shown us what it means to create lasting impact through dedication and traditional values. The crowd applauded enthusiastically. Dad looked distinguished in his charcoal suit, his graying hair perfectly styled. Every inch the successful executive who had built a manufacturing empire through strategic acquisitions and operational excellence. Mom sat beside him in her designer dress, elegant and poised after 30 years of balancing corporate wife duties with her own nonprofit leadership. Our family has always understood that true achievement comes through proven methods. Nathan gestured toward the assembled relatives and family friends. Strategic planning, careful execution, building relationships based on trust and delivering consistent results. These principles have sustained Harper Industries through economic challenges and market changes. I felt the familiar knot forming in my stomach as several family members glanced in my direction. The setup was becoming obvious, and I knew exactly where this anniversary dinner was heading. Most of our family has embraced these time-tested principles beautifully, Nathan continued. My sister Elizabeth just made partner at the region's top law firm. Cousin Michael's medical practice serves 3 major hospitals. Cousin Jennifer's architectural firm designed half the commercial buildings downtown. The applause grew more pointed, and I could feel the weight of family expectations beginning to focus on me. At 32, I was the Harper family's great disappointment. The daughter who had rejected multiple offers to join Harper Industries, who had turned down prestigious corporate positions, and who had chosen to pursue what my family generously called that restaurant hobby. For 11 years I had maintained an elaborate facade. I lived in a converted apartment above what appeared to be a small cafe in the downtown district, drove a modest Honda Accord, and wore casual clothes that suggested someone working in food service rather than business leadership. When family asked about work, I spoke vaguely about restaurant management and hospitality consulting. They assumed I was barely making ends meet while managing someone else's small restaurant. The reality was vastly different. I was the founder and CEO of Meridian Hospitality Group, a restaurant and entertainment empire that had quietly revolutionized the dining industry across the region. We weren't just restaurant operators. We were the strategic force behind 37 successful establishments, the creators of dining experiences that had redefined upscale hospitality, and the developers of hospitality technologies that were transforming how restaurants operated nationwide. But tonight, like every family gathering for the past 11 years, I was just Amanda the disappointment. However, Nathan's tone shifted, becoming more serious. There's something we need to address as a family tonight. The conversations around the dining room began to quiet as Nathan's speech took on the gravity of a family intervention. I could feel 40 pairs of eyes beginning to turn toward my section of the room. We have a family member who has chosen to reject the proven strategies that built our success, Nathan continued, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to addressing corporate boards. Someone who has spent 11 years pursuing what can only be described as an extended experiment in service industry work. My heart sank. Nathan was about to turn Mom and Dad's anniversary celebration into a public trial of my life choices. Amanda Harper, Nathan gestured in my direction, causing heads to turn throughout the dining room, had every advantage this family could provide. Business degree from Northwestern, management consulting experience at Deloitte, guaranteed executive position at Harper Industries, and access to every major business leader in our network. I maintained my practiced composure while internally calculating the quarterly revenue projections for my various restaurant properties. It had become my meditation technique for surviving these family assessments without revealing the true scope of my hospitality empire. Instead, Nathan's voice grew more pointed. She chose to abandon proven career paths to pursue what she calls restaurant management. Working in some small cafe downtown, serving food and managing other people's establishments, generating minimal income while rejecting the security and prestige of established business relationships. Several family members nodded in agreement. Uncle Tom whispered something to his wife that made her shake her head sympathetically. Cousin David raised his wine glass as if acknowledging the sad truth of Nathan's assessment. Mom, who had been listening quietly to Nathan's speech, decided this was her moment to take control of the situation. At 59, Margaret Harper had built her reputation on speaking difficult truths and making hard decisions. She had transformed a small children's advocacy nonprofit into a $50 million organization that influenced state policy while supporting her husband's business empire through decades of corporate social events and strategic relationship building. Nathan is being far too diplomatic, Mom announced, standing up to command attention from the entire dining room. I think this anniversary celebration is the perfect time for some honest family conversation. The dining room fell completely silent. Even the wait staff seemed to pause in their movements as Mom prepared to deliver what I realized was going to be a devastating public evaluation. We're here celebrating 30 years of building something meaningful together, Mom gestured toward Dad, but we can't ignore the fact that Amanda has been embarrassing this family for over a decade. The words hit the room like a physical blow. I could see some family friends looking uncomfortable with the public nature of the confrontation, but most of the Harper relatives were leaning forward, clearly supporting Mom's decision to address my situation directly. 11 years ago, we offered Amanda every opportunity, Mom continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the dining room. Executive track at Harper Industries, starting salary of $120,000, full benefits, stock options, and the chance to learn a business that's been in our family for 2 generations. I sat quietly, knowing that any response would only escalate the situation. Mom was building toward something bigger than criticism. This felt like a final judgment. Instead, she chose to throw it all away to work in restaurants. Mom's voice grew colder. She chose poverty over prosperity, service work over leadership, embarrassment over achievement. She chose to humiliate this family with her failures while the rest of us build something meaningful. The dining room was completely silent now except for the distant sounds of kitchen staff preparing the next course. 40 people were watching this intervention unfold, waiting to see how far Mom was willing to take her public assessment. So I'm going to say what everyone in this family has been thinking for 11 years. Mom's voice reached its crescendo, designed to ensure everyone could hear her final verdict. You're the biggest mistake we ever made, Mom announced coldly, her words cutting through the dining room like a blade. The whole extended family gasped at her words. Even relatives who had been nodding along with her criticism seemed shocked by the brutality of her final assessment. Some guests covered their mouths in horror. Others looked away, clearly uncomfortable with witnessing such a devastating public rejection. That's exactly when I decided 11 years of pretending was enough. I stood up calmly and called over the restaurant manager, who had been discreetly observing the family celebration from near the kitchen doors. James, could you come over here for a moment? James Morrison approached our table with the professional demeanor that had made him one of the most respected restaurant managers in the city. He had been managing Bella Vista for 3 years, ever since I had acquired and renovated the property as the flagship location for Meridian Hospitality Group. Tell them who owns this place, I said calmly, my voice carrying clearly in the stunned silence of the dining room. James looked confused for a moment, glancing between me and the shocked faces of my family members. I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question. Tell my family who owns Bella Vista, I repeated, maintaining perfect composure despite the 40 pairs of eyes staring at me in bewilderment. Well, James replied, his professional training taking over. Bella Vista is owned by Meridian Hospitality Group. The CEO is Amanda Harper, who has transformed this property into one of the most successful restaurants in the city. When he confirmed I was the owner, Mom's champagne glass crashed to the floor, shattering against the hardwood and sending crystal fragments across the dining room. The sound seemed to break the spell that had fallen over the anniversary celebration, but the silence that followed was even more profound. Actually, I continued, turning to address the entire dining room, I own this restaurant and 36 others across 4 states. Meridian Hospitality Group generates approximately $340 million in annual revenue and employs over 4,000 people. The revelation hit the family like a second shockwave. Uncle Tom was staring at me with his mouth hanging open. Cousin Jennifer had dropped her fork. Nathan looked like he'd been struck by lightning. James, I continued, could you tell my family about some of our other properties? James, now understanding the situation, straightened with pride. Certainly. Meridian Hospitality Group owns and operates several of the region's most successful establishments. Rooftop 27, where Governor Martinez held his victory celebration. The Meridian Club, which hosts Fortune 500 company events. Coastal Bistro, which was featured in Food and Wine magazine as Restaurant of the Year. Dad finally found his voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. Amanda, is this true? It's true, I confirmed. I've built Meridian Hospitality Group from a single cafe into the largest independent restaurant empire in the region. We specialize in creating dining experiences that combine exceptional food with innovative service technology. The dining room was buzzing with shocked whispers as family members tried to process this impossible revelation. Several relatives were pulling out their phones, clearly searching for information about Meridian Hospitality Group. There's something else you should know, I continued, looking directly at Mom, who was still staring at the broken champagne glass at her feet. Meridian Hospitality Group has been the exclusive caterer for Harper Industries corporate events for the past 7 years. Dad's face went pale. The Morrison catering contracts were handled by one of our subsidiary companies, I confirmed. Every major Harper Industries event, every client dinner, every board meeting reception, all catered by Meridian Hospitality Group. We've been supporting your corporate image while you assumed I was failing. Nathan was staring at me with growing shock. The technology systems that revolutionized our employee cafeterias. Developed by our Hospitality Technology Division, I replied. We've been helping Harper Industries improve employee satisfaction and operational efficiency through food service innovations. The weight of these revelations was settling over the family like a heavy blanket. People who had spent 11 years assuming I was struggling in food service were discovering that I had been building a hospitality empire while supporting their success. But why didn't you tell us? Dad asked, his voice trembling with emotion. Why let us think you were struggling? Why let us worry about your future? I looked around the dining room at the family members who had just witnessed Mom's public declaration that I was their biggest mistake. Because every time I tried to explain hospitality innovation or restaurant technology, you dismissed it as working in food service or avoiding real business. You had already decided that success only looked one way, your way. James, sensing the emotional weight of the moment, discreetly withdrew to give the family privacy for what had become a profound reckoning. I love this family, I continued, which is why I've been supporting Harper Industries events and corporate functions without you knowing about it. But I can't continue pretending to be less than I am just to avoid challenging your assumptions about what constitutes meaningful work. I gathered my purse and prepared to leave this anniversary dinner that had become something entirely different. Tomorrow I have a hospitality empire to run, restaurant technologies to develop, and dining experiences to create that bring people together and create lasting memories. As I walked toward the restaurant exit, Mom called out one final question, her voice barely audible above the shocked murmurs of the family. Amanda, what happens now? I turned back with a sad but genuine smile. Now you know the truth. Harper Industries will continue receiving exceptional catering services from Meridian Hospitality Group. And I'll continue building experiences that prove hospitality and business success aren't mutually exclusive. But I think we all understand that some mistakes aren't really mistakes at all. They're just successes that nobody bothered to recognize. Walking through Bella Vista toward the exit, I felt 11 years of pretending lift from my shoulders. Tomorrow I would continue building dining experiences that brought families together, while running a hospitality empire that proved passion and profitability could work hand in hand. Some mistakes, it turns out, are just achievements that nobody bothered to understand.